think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
We got, again, the fans love your sense of humor, and you know, it's...
Well, it's an equal love fest, because I love my fans. I cannot tell you how much I love my fans. They, sometimes at night I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what's it all about, you know? And then I get a letter from a fan, or I read something, or I see something, or I remember something, and I realize it's so lucky to have fans who really care about you. And that's the reason I care so much about the fans, because they make me feel so great. And there's something, if you think about it, that is wonderful about somebody caring about you as I care about them, whom you've never met, who may live in another part of the world, but they care, and you have something in common, and occasionally you contact each other. And this business of fans, I think, is terrific. And I love them all.
Raise a beer, drink, anything, as we bid farewell to quite possibly one of, if not the most important figure in pop culture history. That started in the early 60s and was just as important today in 2018, on the brink of 2019. So raise whatever you have to the mighty, the invincible, the immortal Stan Lee.
I think there's only one word that can be said at this point, and that's Excelsior.
There's a lot of words that could be said. You know, it's when you think about how many lives his art and creative mind had molded and sculpted over 60 years. The numbers are, they probably can't be calculated. The sheer joy that the man had brought millions upon millions upon millions of people is just mind-blowing. And the best part about that is that his legacy may be the only legacy that lives on in 200-300 years. These characters will never go away, and he's a legend, and he'll never be forgotten simply because of what he accomplished on his very long life on this planet. And I could only hope to live that long. I'll never be remembered like him, but you know, I hope I can enjoy life like he did.
Yeah, looking at his age and everything that he's pretty much experienced through the last 60 years, I mean, obviously you feel sad for him, but you know, like one of my good friends made a point earlier, and he was like, you know, he's 95, he's lived more than people have twice over, and to sit there and diminish that because you're a little sad isn't fair to who he was. So, you know, I think he came, he saw, he kicked the world's ass, and he's leaving a legacy that's at least. Well, you know what? Like I'll flat out say it. He's like the modern day Walt Disney as far as I'm concerned, and that legacy is, like you said, it's not going to go away anytime soon, and it's a generational thing. It's just going to keep on going. Whereas like my parents read his comics, and that was passed down to me, and people having kids my age are passing that down to their kids, and so on and so forth. And it's just amazing the life that he lived, and I'm glad that like we were around to experience that.
Yeah, it's I had somebody the other day say to me, "Why are you so upset about this? Did you know him? You'll get over it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get over it, but that doesn't diminish the impact that his death is having on me. No, I never knew him. I guess technically I met him once, but I didn't even get to say a word to him. But it doesn't matter. I mean, the connection was there because of my love for his work. So whether or not I had met him is irrelevant. The man, it was such a major influence on my life growing up and well into my adulthood now. I mean, you guys can see it every time we stream. I mean, right here, right behind me. A beautiful piece of work in a Spider-Man poster behind me. Spider-Man, that's Stan Lee's creation there. I got that shit all over my room. Everywhere I go, there's a character that he created. And I can see it, and it reminds me every day of just how special this man was to me in my life, and still is. And he'll be special to my kids' life when I have kids and they're growing up, because they're gonna love these characters. I know they will, and so on and so on and so on. So no, I didn't know him. Yes, his death impacted me very, very hard, and it and I know he was 95, and I know, and we were expecting this soon, but even when you expect it, it's still punch to the heart,
Yeah, you get that shock to you. Like I remember when you sent me a text message when you had found out, you said, "Yeah, it finally happened," and I think that's what you said, something along those lines. And I was just like, oh, I immediately the feeling in my stomach just like, it sunk like a pit in it, and I knew exactly what you were referring to.
Yeah, it's a couple of deaths from people, celebrities in their own regards. Some deaths have affected me so hard that I just needed to kind of step away for a few moments and kind of collect myself. When Dio had passed away, that hit me insanely hard. Another one that I did not think was going to hit me as hard as it did, but I legit cried, was when Dusty Rhodes passed away. I that hit me way harder than I thought it would. I guess, again, it's just all about the respect, and you watch someone when you're growing up, and you see them, and it's like you fall in love with them. Stan Lee is another one. Again, I'm 31. I'll be 32 very soon, and it's a 95-year-old man that I didn't know died, and I still get choked up and teary-eyed just thinking about that now. And fans will continue to mourn, but fans will continue to love, respect, and honor this man and his legacy. So he'll live on, well beyond all of us. Will be long gone, and he will continue to live on, and he deserves that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. One of the things that I really liked that I seen going around was that, he is responsible for so many comic book characters, and at one point in time, well, for a long period of time, it wasn't cool to like comic books. It wasn't cool to hang out at a comic book store. You kind of knew your place growing up in those times, and it's different now. It's a situation where everybody's into the movies and kids are rediscovering those ancient relics of comic books. So I think if there's one thing that you could do, and this is the thing that's been going around at this point to, I guess, honor the man, everything he's created, everything his fans went through with the long journey, as well as the changing of times and everything, is go out and go and buy a comic book. Even if it's not for you, just go out and pick up something. You may not have read something in a long time. You may have not touched a comic book since you were a kid. Like, I think a really good way to honor the legacy he's created and has given us for many, many years to come is to spend a few bucks and relive that childhood, or give that feeling you had as a child to somebody else. So I know it's very small and maybe it seems insignificant, but I think it's a really cool gesture.
Stan Lee was the kind of guy who, no matter who you talk to, whether it be one of your parents, a stranger on the street, anybody, young, not too young, but young or old, where if you mentioned his name, person knew who Stan Lee was. I don't think there are too many people in this world who don't know who Stan Lee is. And the ones who don't know, I feel bad for them. And before we get into the rest of the episode, I got really heated. The day that he passed, somebody called up. We have, I guess you'd call him popular. I don't know. He's a twat in my mind. But there's a very well-known sports radio host and by the name of Dickhead. No, that really should be his name, but his name is Mike Francesa, and this guy is like the fucking encyclopedia of useless sports knowledge, right? So somebody had called him up on his live show the day Stan Lee died, and when Stan Lee dies, it's fucking huge. Everybody in the world was talking about it. Everybody. And a caller called up and said, "Hey Mike, Stan Lee just died. What are your feelings about that?" And this motherfucker had the gall to go, "Who? Who's that? I don't know who that is." This is the kind of guy this motherfucker will sit here and yell at you for not knowing who the relief pitcher was for a Yankees game when they played Boston in a series in 1985 or something. But he's gonna sit here and just be a dickhead because somebody told him. I guess that was sitting next to him in the show. Goes, "Oh, he's a comic legend." This motherfucker had the goal to go, "Oh, who cares? Who cares? I don't like comics. I don't know comics. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know comics to know fucking royalty." All right? It's just stuff like that. Like, I get it. Maybe you didn't like comics. That's fine. Not everybody likes comics. Maybe, you thought they were silly. Again, that's fine. But just still know who Stan Lee is. I mean, there's absolutely no excuse. And, the guy sat there and just pretty much insulted one of the greatest, as I said, pop culture figures to ever live. Just insulted him by saying, "Who cares?" Oh, sorry, man. A lot more people care than don't care. And you should be incredibly embarrassed. You know what? When you die, ain't gonna be two people that give a shit about you, man. So
that's the way I look at it.
Remember that.
Yeah, it's. I didn't know the guy's name before this, and after having seen the video, I don't know his name after. It's insignificant. And, he may have not have legitimately known who the guy was, but even so, you have a little fucking tact. But that's here nor there. It's more of a way to send him off, from us. And I think, it is what it is at this point.
Well, so how are you doing over there?
Not too bad. Just hanging out, relaxing. I'm a bit exhausted because I'm on 3 hours of sleep, but when am I not? And having a Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale right now, which is an upgrade from my usual coffee.
Coffee, yes, yes.
My coffee. I have my coffee sitting right behind it, so that hasn't changed, but I've got 2 beers in front of it for now. How are you?
Yeah, I think I'm on about 4.5 hours of sleep. I was gaming last night and watching the hockey game, and then I got caught in one of those YouTube voids where you click on one video and it's like, oh, okay, and then you see a suggestion for another video, and you're like, oh, looks like it could be cool, and then it's like 3 hours later, it's like, oh, it's 1:30, and I got to be up at 5:30. Fuck. So I had one of those last night, and then I came home and ate, sat down, and I tried to take a nap, and it didn't really work too well. But I am here now, and I only have 2 more days of work, then I have 10 days off. So my next 2 days will be a little busy, but I should be able to manage it without an issue.
I'll be living vicariously through you because my work days are about to become hell. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
I heard you have to work Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's looking like it. And Black Friday, and well, I got to do some talking, but currently I'm on the schedule for Thanksgiving, which is interesting to me. So we'll see if I have a job by next week because I'm very, very fed up with the place that I'm working at.
Hey, just wear black pants. That'll ensure you don't have a job anymore.
Shit, fuck that. I'm gonna double down and wear no pants and see how that works.
Oh,
technically,
man.
Technically the right color.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe a little hairy, but all right, so we got an interesting show for you today. We're going to be diving into, we're going to be talking about Death House, because Death House just got released. It's this hyped up horror movie, been hyped up for years. It's finally out. We saw it.
Some of us twice.
Yeah, well, listen.
That's our problem.
You knew where the booby trap was, all right? Nobody told you to go step on that rake again. You stepped on it once because you didn't know any better. But then you turned around and you stepped on it again. That's your own fault.
It was only twice. I didn't sideshow Bob it, but I was really tempted because I'm still trying to understand what people see in this movie.
Yeah. Well,
it's fascinating. They should teach a college course on this film.
We'll get into all of that in a little bit. First, let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Well, I guess before we dive into horror news, we do have a third member joining us tonight. Before I forget, she's so quiet over there. Joining us again, some of you may remember she checked in from a Canadian horror convention a few weeks ago on one of our streams. But joining us again tonight is a fellow writer and contributor to deadentertainment.com, Michelle Chaotic. How's it going over there?
It is cold up here.
Yeah, it's pretty nippy down here too. We're actually in a winter weather advisory right now.
where the hell did that come from? We're supposed to get like 8 inches of snow out of no.
What? Really? Are we supposed to get that much?
Yeah, I mean, unless the forecast changed, it's supposed to be tomorrow afternoon-ish, all the way into Friday.
Awesome. That's just great.
Uh-huh. Live Life Live, where you get New Jersey weather updates on the hour. And Canada.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm sure it's fucking icy up there. It's icy down here right now, but the cold doesn't bother me that much, so I like it.
It's actually only like -3 with the wind chill, so it's really not that bad. I just want to add, when you were mentioning about watching Death House more than once or twice, I've actually watched it 3 times now just to try to wrap my head around certain things, and I'm still puzzled.
I was really tempted myself. I wasn't going to pull the trigger, but when I started seeing high Amazon ratings and high Rotten Tomatoes ratings, I'm just like, no, I've definitely missed something. And then I stopped myself. I stopped myself from watching it a 3rd time, but because there's just nothing redeemable. But again, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, it was bad enough I had to just watch bits and pieces of it again as I was pulling clips out from my video review, which I hope to have done in another day or two. And that was bad enough. I mean, I think I watched that stupid elevator shaft scene 4 or 5 times, and it gets worse every time. But we will get into this movie a little bit later. First, we are going to go ahead and jump into some horror news.
It's a horror fiction, silver screen addiction. Cinematic gore and murder. It's horror fiction, not a fact prediction. Movies cannot make you a killer.
All right, so unreleased George Romero film, The Amusement Park, has been unearthed, entombed. Has been released from whatever prison it was being held in. It's found. You know, it's funny. I heard about this days ago, and it really, I don't think it like generated a ton of like commotion within the horror world. It just seemed like, you know, oh, this news happened, yeah, okay, and then like I haven't heard anybody talking about this.
I'm really surprised you haven't, because there's an entire, I guess, crowdfunding movement to get it restored and released, and it's taken off quite a bit in the last couple days.
Yeah, I've barely seen anything on my timeline about it. And I hear it's about like a 60-minute movie.
Yeah, it was I believe it was like a PSA. They're describing it as a PSA on age discrimination, and it was, I believe, made for TV originally. And the people that funded the film saw the movie and were just like, oh, there's no way in hell we're going to release that. Are you crazy? And it just got tucked away into whatever crypt that it fell into. And somebody's been apparently on the hunt for this film for quite a while. And you know, the person, I believe the person's from, he's an author from New York Times. He managed to finally track it down, and he kind of live tweeted watching it, you know, sharing all these interesting like screenshots and pictures. And I gotta say, the imagery is fascinating. Like it's really 60s era, you know, very George Romero in style, but like it has a different edge to it. You know, it's an interesting look to it.
When did he make this movie? What year?
It looks like it was 1973.
Okay. So in between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. All right.
For sure. And you can definitely see, just I'm looking at one image in particular where like this like Grim Reaper feature is the character is like standing near some bikers, and it has that very Hell's Angels sort of biker vibe to it. And like you can't sit there and like deny the fact that some of this film may have like boiled over into Dawn of the Dead, you know, or boiled in from ideas from Dawn of the Dead, you know, for the biker scenes.
Oh, bikers! Don't let Richie know. He'll pop a little chubby.
Oh god, I actually think I own that movie now.
What? Biker zombies from Detroit?
Well, yeah, I Richie gave it to Chris. Chris posthumously gave it to me.
You need to watch that if you haven't. If I had to sit through that fucking garbage, so do you. If you can watch Death House twice, you can watch Biker Zombies from Detroit once.
Alright, fair enough. I'll review it for the site.
So that's pretty cool. So, you know, maybe down the road, Romero fans will get a chance to see this flick. I think it'd be interesting. It's definitely cool that even though he's gone, he's still giving us new content, new things for us to watch and love.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, who would have thought that, you know, his passing would kind of unearth all this unfinished or finished secret work, you know, like he has a novel, he's got comic book ideas, you know, ways to continue to the Dead series, and there's just so much fascinating stuff that's like locked away in some treasure chest. It's very unfortunate that he's gone, but it's awesome that we're still getting stuff, like you said.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll be getting George Romero stuff for a couple years, which is 100% okay in my book. So, moving on here. So the Child's Play remake, it got a new poster and I think it's like April 21st release date?
I don't remember.
Or was it June 21st?
It's a summer release date, I believe. Yeah, June 21st, correct.
June 21st. All right. Well, I know what I won't be doing on June 21st. I have been I've been very against this movie since it got announced, and every time I read more about it, it just angers me. But it seems that MGM, the studio making this movie, has had the rights to the first movie. So they didn't have any rights to anything else because, or it was a Columbia. I forget who had it.
No, it was MGM.
MGM had it. Okay, so then after the first movie, then I believe the franchise moved over to maybe Columbia. So that's why they don't have the rights to anything else. It's just a little weird that even though they have the rights to the first movie, they're not using the character of Charles Lee Ray. They're not, using any of the voodoo elements. They're basically only taking the foundation of a killer doll and just building around that.
Yeah, I think they're going to be kind of launching it into this modern day. Based off of the poster, they changed the name of the good guy doll to Buddy, which is kind of a nod to the inspiration for Chucky, My Buddy doll from the 80s. But in any case, if you look at the doll box, the eye is dotted with like a Wi-Fi signals, which is kind of like giving me this vibe that, maybe somebody hacks into this system, or it's a computer virus of some sort, which, it's very cringy. Like, I'm not a big fan of modern technology getting into all these movies, but this is the age we're living in. So, unfortunately it comes with the territory of, time passing. With that said, I'm still semi-intrigued by this, and I'm also intrigued by how well this film does and if it'll have any positive effect on Don Mancini's series, which is going to be continuing in movies as well as a TV series that's is currently in development. So if this movie this summer takes off, I think those pockets of the producers that are down for the television show of the same name, those pockets are going to open a little bit easier than they might be currently. So this might have a positive ripple effect in that side of the world as well as the films, and it might be decent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's still gonna piss me off, and I'm gonna tell you why it's gonna piss me off. Because this movie is getting a theatrical release, correct?
It is.
Yeah. Well, fuck them, because while this piece of shit remake that has no reason being remade, this franchise has no reason to be remade right now.
Agreed.
So why this piece of shit remake is getting a theatrical run? Awesome sequels like Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky were doomed to be direct to video. That doesn't sit well with me. That just pisses me off even more.
I agree, but I think the negative stigma of direct to video doesn't exist as much anymore. They're not making fucking millions and millions of dollars, but people are slowly but surely not giving a shit about going to theaters anymore. And if it pops up in their Netflix feed or their Vudu or whatever other thing that they purchase movies on or rent movies on, I think it's equally accessible. Maybe not as much so as if it had millions of dollars of advertising. So I don't want to say that it's like doom those movies, but on the same token, those movies are good enough to warrant, some sort of, red carpet laid out for it.
Yeah. It just, I would much rather, how great would it have been to see Curse of Chucky on the theater? And that would have been great.
Man. It's just those fucking producers. They just go with the trends of what works and what doesn't on paper. Nobody wants to take chances anymore. And they see it like this. They're like, okay, well, we could do this model of limited release straight to DVD and VOD a week later and be done with it. But, of course, the last few movies had some popularity. Maybe rights are ending up, being taken away. I'm not exactly sure. But the frustrating part about this whole thing for me is that, Child's Play and Chucky was kind of the redheaded stepchild for MGM for many years. No interest in touching it, no interest in documentaries, continuing the series until Don Mancini's two recent films had some popularity. And all of a sudden people are talking about Chucky again. All of a sudden people are buying Chucky dolls and Funko Pops and this and that. And now MGM is I feel like this movie took 2 months to put together, and then they were off to the races. It's already wrapped and it's coming out this summer. It feels like no time was put into it whatsoever, and it just shows me that money talks, and that's it. They don't care about making art. They don't care about who's directing it, who's writing it. They just want to get it out there, so the fans that are currently hyped on it pay for it.
Yeah, this whole let's speed make a movie to kind of jump on the popularity, it just sounds like fucking a cash grab to me, man.
Absolutely, and it's no different than anything done previously. Why do we have 8 Michael Myers movies that are mostly bad? Because they bought them, people paid for them real quick, they got them going as fast as they could and churned them out, just like the Saw series, just like the Paranormal Activity series. It boils down to money, and that's how it's always going to be, unfortunately.
It's interesting to note that it's actually released on the same day as Toy Story 4.
I like that about that. It's ballsy. It's like, hey, we're going to go up against what is that, a Pixar movie? Or
Yep.
It's going to get fucking buried.
Yeah,
buried.
Yeah, definitely.
That's like James Ellsworth going up against Braun Strowman again. It's gonna get fucking buried. And you know what? Good. That makes me happy knowing that. I hope that movie makes dog shit. I can't support it. Listen, I'm not against remakes. I've gone through this a million times, but I'm against remaking a franchise that's alive and kicking. All right, don't fucking touch it. Stay away. But I mean, look, I don't like, the poster. Poster doesn't do anything for me. It looks like, it's not creepy or anything. It's not clever. It's not bad, but there's nothing really that kind of grabs you about the poster, and the tagline isn't good at all.
Are they actually replacing the name Chucky as well?
I don't think so. I think that's staying, but I believe I read something that the reason why they changed Good Guy Doll is because, similar to the Scream mask, it's owned by a different company. So Good Guy Doll is owned by, I don't know who, I don't even want to speculate, but they're unable to use that branding, so that's why they changed it to Buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems just like a hacked rush job, and it's just how the business is, and it's sad. But you know what? This remake will come. This remake will go, and it'll be lost and forgotten with time, like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I'm calling that now.
I wanted to be so against this movie, and I was at a certain point, and then they started adding all these elements that I started to be intrigued by, and even this poster, it doesn't do anything for you, but I really like the aesthetic. It, reminds me of those box covers that I'd see in the theater or in the movie store. It's got that. It brings me back to that very first movie, so I'm digging it. So we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also greedy in the sense that, give me Don Mancini's sequels, give me his TV show, and also I'll take this remake too. Why not? It's all Chucky for me. I'm happy about it.
Well, few months, you can tell me how it is, because this movie's not getting a dime of my money. So, moving on here. It seems like every other year.
I knew how you were going to start this.
Every other fucking year, the same shit with this guy, alright? Dan Aykroyd seems to think Ghostbusters 3 is happening in the near future. It's not! Give it a fucking rest. Never gonna fucking happen, alright? Just end it. Stop it. Stop getting fans' hopes up. Alright? I'm not falling for it anymore. They shouldn't either. But he wants to try to stay relevant. I mean, Dan Aykroyd doesn't do a whole lot anymore, and that's fine. Doesn't have to. He's put in his dues, man. But stop. Why? Why do you keep thinking this is happening? You're gonna be in a fucking wheelchair before this shit ever happens. You're drinking too much of your own vodka, man. Don't get high off your own stash.
Seriously, I've been a Ghostbuster fan since I was a kid. My entire if I had a webcam, I'd point it towards my desk hutch, which is end to end of Ghostbusters memorabilia. I'm a big Ghostbuster fan, but after 30 years since the last original timeline Ghostbusters, I know not to listen to any hope that Dan Aykroyd shells out. Not anymore. Fool me once, shame on him or something.
No, shame. Shame on you.
Shame on him. Fool me for 30 years after. Shame on me. So I got to that point where I don't care what medium he talks on. This particular thing was a Access TV special. It's called The Big Interview with Dan Rather. And the actual quote, he goes, "There's a possibility of a reunion with the 3 remaining Ghostbusters," said Aykroyd. It's being written now. I think Billy will come. The story's so good, even if he plays a ghost. So it seems like he's barking up that same tree from that previously written Ghostbusters sequel that just never would happen because Bill Murray would drag his feet for so long. And it seems like the Ghost Corpse company that was put together for the remake and everything like that, they're trying to get the franchise to continue in some way. There was a lot of cool crossover comic books, and that idea got put into play a little bit. And I don't know, like, as much as I think this is a, as much as I want it to be, like, giving me a glimmer of hope, I know that it's definitely probably not happening. An animated movie, why don't they just do that? Let's leave it at that. Get the remaining cast, get somebody that sounds like Egon in there for a scene, send him off nicely, and bring in the girls too from the remake. Get some sort of like cross-dimension thing going, and just do it animated. Nobody wants to see these guys in their 60s, wearing proton packs. I mean, the time's come, the time's passed. You want your Ghostbusters 3? Go pick up Ghostbusters, the video game. It was amazing. It was a very, very good thing, voiced by all the original Ghostbuster character actors. So that's all I have to really say about that.
Yeah, we'll get the actual Keymaster and Gatekeeper to meet up and fuck in real life before we ever get a Ghostbusters 3. Alright. Personally, if they want to keep making Ghostbusters movies, I say go back to the remake, look at the things you did wrong, fix them, and make a sequel. I went into that movie thinking I was going to hate it. I actually went with, me and Mungus actually saw it together, opening day. No, wait, I don't know if it was opening day. We saw it. We saw it in the theaters. And I remember coming out of the theater, and I'm like, I don't hate this. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I thought some of the humor was a little awkward, and some of the scenes were a little over the top. But I think overall there was a good core there. The chemistry was there. There were good things about that remake, and I think you get the right writers, and who directed that movie?
Paul Feig.
Paul Feig, yeah, that's who I thought. I like Paul Feig. I like him a lot. He was actually a guest on Amazing Colossal Podcast not too long ago.
Nice.
And so, I like him, and I think he gave it a really good shot. And again, good things in that movie, some not so good things. Those are easily corrected in a sequel. Now, I don't think a sequel for that movie is ever going to get off the ground with the reception the movie got, and I think it got a lot of unwarranted hate. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was as bad as the movie as some people made it out to be. It had flaws, and you're going to have flaws in these movies. It's just going to happen. But there was enough good to build upon. And, they even had that little teaser at the end, teasing Zool and obviously Gozer, and we'll never see that happen on the screen again. So if they wanted to continue Ghostbusters, I say they go back and fix the issues they had in the remake and do a sequel. But don't expect Ghostbusters 3. We'll get a sequel to the remake before we get Ghostbusters 3. Okay.
And a sequel to the remake is like asking hell to freeze over. So, unfortunately, it looks like Ghostbuster fans are going to be back in this long drought of content, and hopefully we get something to wet our whistle. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're probably going to get any other news until the Ghostbusters convention later on next year. I think it is.
All right. Well, there you go. So moral of this update, don't believe Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, seriously.
So Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is getting a Christmas special, which is pretty cool. You know, it's a Netflix show. When Netflix releases their own shows, they release them, you know, all at once. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch the show yet, but I will. And I guess they're releasing a special Christmas episode, I'm guessing sometime next month.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure about the exact date. Let me look real quick. December 14th it comes out, and it is a continuation of the series. So you watch the season, and then you will get a Christmas episode that takes place after season 1 or part 1, however you want to say it. But I didn't expect this to happen, to be perfectly honest. Like, they put out the season, and from what I'm hearing, it's really well done. Our writer, our streamer guy, Brandon Evans, just recently reviewed the entire first season, and he gave it, let me look real quick, 9 out of 10. You know, my brother, he also watched it recently, and you know, he had high praise for it. So I'm looking forward to diving in myself, so I could kind of like coast right into that December 14th special. I gotta say, I'm a sucker for holiday episodes of things, whether it's like Halloween, especially Halloween, and Christmas. I've always loved them since I was a kid. So like when I heard the news of this, I was like, all right, that's pretty awesome. And for everybody that's so hyped on season 1, they're able to get a nice little hold me over till the next season gets put into production, which I believe has been greenlit for a second season already, if I don't recall improperly.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, especially for, you know, fans of the show. They're getting a little extra bonus, you know, after binging the whole first season, and then they get a couple weeks off, and then they get, boom, a bonus episode to kind of wet their whistle again a little bit before, you know, they get season 2, I would assume, in like a year or so. So that is definitely a nice little bonus for fans of the show. As I said, I will try to get through this show very soon, because it does look pretty cool, I gotta say.
You got 10 days coming up. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, we'll see. Alright, so amid, you know, sequel rumors that have been kind of swirling around for a little while, they're getting a little heavier now. Director of the Evil Dead remake, how do you say his name? Feed?
Fetty, I think.
Fetty? Okay.
That's how I always thought. Fetty Alvarez, I believe.
Fetty Alvarez clarifies that the Evil Dead remake is actually a sequel. Okay. Cool. I'm guessing he's meaning that it's a sequel to Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn?
I believe it's Evil Dead 1. It's going to be a continuation of the very first movie. Because by the end of I'm in TV mode, don't mind me. By the end of Dead by Dawn, the car is gone and off to the medieval land. So you can't necessarily put it there, you know, as far as like a sequel goes. You can't muck up the timeline more than it already is. But he clarifies on Twitter that it continues the first film. The coincidences on events between the first film and mine are not coincidences, but more like a dark fate created by the evil book. Parentheses, Ash Carr is still there rusting away. A lot of these things were little Easter eggs that we thought were kind of like nods to the original movie, a nice wink at for the fans, you know, of everything that came before. And there were plenty of them within it. And, you know, one thing that I said going out of the theater when I seen it, and I absolutely love the remake, was that, you know, this doesn't feel like a remake. Some of the events continued, but it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't necessarily a situation that had to be branded a remake. It was a situation that could easily, you know, well, this could work in the same universe. You know, like we could throw Ash in there and see these two characters go arm in arm defeating Deadites. You know, like it had that vibe, and it just took a few years for him to come out and say it.
Yeah, I wasn't an overly big fan of the remake. It's been a while since I watched it. I really need to revisit it. But yeah, I guess I guess fans could, could like that idea. It's in the same universe. Fans like that kind of shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Marvel doing it and everybody creating universes in their own franchises. Hell yeah, bring it on. Knowing that Bruce Campbell's character of Ash exists in the same universe as the badass Mia character from the Evil Dead remake. Just knowing that those two characters might be able to link up in some possible way to go up against a bigger, a much bigger force is cool to me. I immediately when I read this news, I started just spitballing with my brother, and I'm just like thinking of ways to connect the movies, and I'm just getting myself like way too hyped up about a possible connection, especially now that Bruce Campbell's saying he's no longer going to be playing the character of Ash. I think we have one more for him. If they put out a movie script in front of him, I think we might be able to see him one last time on the big screen.
If there's anything we've ever learned about horror actors and all this shit, is that they're liars. They are fibbers. All right, Robert Englund, I'm never putting on the glove and the makeup again. You fucking liar. You did. All right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Before Ash vs. Evil Dead, everybody was like, Bruce Campbell would just get angry about it at points. So like, no, I'm not doing Evil Dead 4, fuck off. Not an actual quote, but he was just so sick of answering the question of, is there going to be? I'm just saying, if the fires turn up a little bit for an Evil Dead sequel, and they kind of do this weird cross-universe thing between the originals and the new one as a way to bring them together, I think he'd strap up the chainsaw one more time.
Yeah, he said, he's already said that he's not, he's done with the character. But wasn't he already teasing bringing the character back? Hasn't he already teased the character?
I think so, but I think that was in video game form. So
I don't care. It's still the character. Whether you're voicing him or playing him, it's the same thing. You liar. You big fat fibber.
I think there's another comic book series in the work too.
But yeah, listen, it would not surprise me in the least to see Bruce Campbell, crank the chainsaw one more time. Whether it be for a sequel to the remake, which is already a sequel now to the original. I don't know. I can't follow these timelines in horror movies anymore. They are making it too difficult. You need fucking like a manual.
You need like some like graph paper and some rulers and art supplies so you could time everything out. Especially some of the more convoluted ones. I could allow the timelines for Ash vs. Evil Dead and the Evil Dead universe. That's not too bad. But when you get into like series like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, take a day off because you're going to be working on that graph for a while.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of branches on that one.
Say the least.
All right. So let's get into it here.
We'll just skip this one.
Let us get in to Death House. Do you people out there know what Death House is? No? I'll explain it to you real quick. Death House was an idea Gunnar Hansen, the original Leatherface, had like a decade ago. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to bring together all the horror icons and legends and put them in this movie. And so it finally got dubbed as the Expendables of horror. Alright? That's a bullshit lie. That is not what this movie is. And what the movie is about, it's about these two agents, or are they, who go into this prison mental institution thingamajigger, where they house all these psychopaths on all different levels, even though they make it a point to really explain the levels, levels 1 through 9, and then 9 being the worst, and housing the worst of the worst.
Those levels mean nothing
except
9. 9 is the only important one they needed to, exposition.
And the plot actually goes as far as to say that these two agents have to fight their way through all these levels. No, they don't. No, they don't.
I mean, at high speed while falling down an elevator shaft.
Okay,
shooting.
with how long they were falling, they would have gone through like 160 levels. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. So this movie has a million horror names in it. All right. Kane Hodder. There's Tony Todd. There's Dee Wallace. Adrian Barbeau. Michael Berryman. Bill Moseley. Sid Haig. R.A. What's his name? Milahoff?
Close enough.
Yeah. That guy. And others. There's a lot of others. Felissa Rose pops up, but if you don't know where she is, you'll blink and miss her.
And Beverly Randolph was in it.
See, I didn't even know that.
Like, I didn't see it either. I missed Tiffany Shepis. I missed so many people.
Lloyd Kaufman, you know, it's...
Tiffany was in the green screen scene.
Okay, the gratuitous nudity scene.
I think that's where Felissa Rose was, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she you can recognize pretty easy. She's got that face.
She had like one line.
That is true. More that could be said. More that could be said about others. Other people just like made a face and they were gone.
Yeah, Danny
Also,
Trejo.
This is all spoilers, but I will tell you this right now that even if we spoiled every beat of the movie, you still would not fucking understand it. Like, this movie is so convoluted that even spoilers aren't going to spoil anything for you.
Yeah, fuck. I don't want to like go too crazy because I get into a lot of this on my video review, but I still wanna beat the fuck out of this movie because it pisses me off. Pisses me off that I actually watched this movie. Right? It angered me. Me.
I will say that, okay, I have been so excited for this movie since last fall, when I saw Kane Hodder at a convention. He was so happy speaking about this movie, so I've been so excited. I did the pre-order, and since I had no patience to wait another 3 weeks, I rented it on a game console, and I was so disappointed that it did not live up to my expectations, maybe others, but it's really upsetting when they hype it up to be this amazing movie and then you watch it and it's such a letdown that it's so disappointing.
Yeah, Mungus had found a quote from the director earlier today, and I just want to read part of it. There was great temptation to throw in a shitload of horror faces, give them 30 seconds each to pack them in, and mix it all with a shitty retread plot to get it all through the gate. Well, he fell for temptation. He did just that. He basically just gave the plot away. That's the movie. If you're going to this movie watching it because you're a fan of one of these actors in particular, oh, I love Tony Todd. Oh, Sid Haig or Danny Trejo in it, I love them. Let's go watch it for them. Don't do it. Just don't. These people don't have any significant roles. Danny Trejo's in the movie for 15 seconds. He gargles up some words as he's killed. Sid Haig has about a 30-second role, and he talks, but I don't know what his role was even about. Michael Berryman, he's in the movie. He says 6 words! 6 words! That's it! And he doesn't do anything, he stands. Just stands and he touches his head. That's it.
Like, dare I say, even the ones that have substantial roles don't even put on a not even a shining performance, but they're not necessarily interesting to watch on the screen. Like Barbara Crampton kind of does her thing.
Dee Wallace phoned it in.
Exactly. There are scenes, particularly in the elevator, where she's just reciting this nonsensical fucking dialogue, and like if you would listen to it with a headset on, you could like almost hear like the sighs between the words. You know, like she is just going through this script like, what the fuck am I even saying? You know, and as a person that's watching this movie, you're like, what the fuck is she even saying? You know, I'm not a dumb film watcher. I've watched very complicated movies, a lot of movies that kind of have endings that have that leave everything open for interpretation. But some of the gargling that comes out of these people's mouths, some of the words that are being presented here, it's just like I don't know, like they took a thesaurus and looked up simple words and found more complicated words, and then they strung them together to kind of make sense of what the scene required. And at the end of the scene, you're just like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand any of this. But going back to what Michelle said about waiting and the hype and everything like that, it's a situation where you start hearing these things and you start just noticing the hype and seeing what this film could potentially be. And any film that kind of parades around a laundry list of top old horror icons, you know, that is just amazing. You know, you kind of have to set yourself up for lower expectations because they're all older. You all picture the roles that they used to play in, and you're just like, okay, what are they going to add to it? Are they going to distract you from it? That's one thing that I pretty much saw all throughout. Not only was the hype a complete letdown, I mean, it was nice to see some of these actors appear on screen and pop up here and there, but at the same time, I found myself playing Where's Waldo rather than caring about the character they were trying to portray. Some characters more so than others. Some characters you're like, okay, I'd like to learn more about this guy. Not very many, but at the same time, you're just like, all right, not too bad. It's a decent situation. But ultimately, you get that hype for so long, and you think of the potential, and it just falls completely.
Yeah, it's none of the actors or actresses like commit to their roles. They're just like, oh, well, we got paid, and I guess we got to do this now. And they just they all phone it in, from Crampton to Dee Wallace, especially. Even Kane Hodder, he is not buying this movie or his role. And he delivers probably some of the cringiest lines in the movie. Typically I don't really have anything ever bad to say about Kane Hodder in any of his movies, but yeah, he's gonna wish he had this one back.
I had seen a video that apparently a lot of the lines were actually ad-lib by the actors, so they really didn't have a secure script to work with, and I think that's pretty evident.
That's the other thing that's bothering me about this film. From the very inception of the movie, this was sold as Gunnar Hansen's, and if you're not familiar with Gunnar Hansen is, it's Leatherface from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But this whole thing came about from kind of an idea after The Expendables came out of getting all the old-time actors back together for one movie. You know, the selling point was getting everybody back and creating a big sort of scenario for these actors to play in. And I think that's where the concept ended as far as Gunnar Hansen went. Don't quote me on that, but the thing is it's being sold as Gunnar Hansen's story. It's being sold as Gunnar Hansen's original script. Gunnar Hansen this, Gunnar Hansen that. And then if you look at IMDb and the credits of the film, that the screenplay was written by the director. And now hearing this whole ad-libbing line thing, it also makes me wonder how much input was Gunnar even having on this thing? Like, was it just a conversation at a convention? Like, wouldn't it be great if all of you guys were in a movie? Did it end there? And why is so much credit being given to him if it just started as an idea? Maybe out of respect, but I don't like the fact that it's being sold as a Gunnar Hansen project, because, quite frankly, after having watched the film twice, this puts a real big damper on any creative legacy that Gunnar may have had, or definitely had, because Gunnar was also a writer too, and he was kind of not renowned, but like he was known for the things that he wrote. To see the outcome of Death House, you're just like, what happened? It had to either be the screenplay, it had to been, maybe he had some too much beer that night. I don't know, but it shouldn't be labeled as a Gunnar thing, in my opinion.
This movie was an idea that was scribbled onto a cocktail napkin, and somebody read it and decided, yeah, let's throw $2.5 million at this idea. And this is what we got. It just cringe after cringe. From the effects, to the dialogue, to the jumpiness. I swear to God, when they finished filming this movie, they must have given it to the fucking people over at W&B in DC to cut it. Because there are entire portions of this movie missing. Like 10 to 15 to possibly even 20-minute chunks of this movie are just gone. I don't know where they went. Maybe they got sentenced to a cell at Death House and they didn't get a chance to escape.
Yeah, no, there's a significant lack of establishing shots. It just seems like every plot point is either exposition to get them to the next plot point, or backpedaling to fix some plot holes that they forgot in shooting. Like, I fully believe that they didn't have a solid script to go on based off of some of the things that are just put into the film that come off heavily as just like writing themselves in the corner and then trying to figure out a way to bore a hole big enough to fit through into the next wall. You know what I mean? Like it just comes off so convoluted, and there's a complete lack of direction as far as anything goes, from not only the film making portion of it, but as well as the whole screenplay.
I think the lighting as well. I understand the concept. There's a power outage. The dark can, suspense or whatnot, but it was really difficult to see anything. You could hear the action that was occurring, but unless you were watching it in a dark room, all your lights turned off, it was really hard to see majority of the movie, what was going on.
Yeah, definitely agree there. It seems like they didn't have the money for proper lighting, and they tried to get creative with
That's a lie. Every character had a flashlight. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, that's where the budget was spent. We all know that.
$2.5 million all on flashlights. I am not kidding. There's 6 million flashlights in this movie.
And it's not on paper. Excuse me. On paper, that's not a horrible idea, because you're just okay, power outage, okay, flashlights. That's going to make for interesting lighting.
Wait, Ray, how do you know the power is out?
Explain how the power went out. See, that's a perfect example of writing a scene just to fucking explain something. They couldn't make a storm. You know what I mean? They wrote this huge, ridiculous, convoluted scene. Not even huge. It took place 30 seconds? That had one of the funniest lines in it too. Oh, look, a bloody rag or something like that.
Well, no, that was when the guy that's before he got stabbed by the little Nazi kid.
But that's the thing, though. They had to write a scene to explain how this fucking weird device got put into this guard's stomach that is a plot device to shut the power off in the building. Like it feels like they got to the point where they're like, okay, well, we need a power outage now. How are we going to do that? I got a great idea.
Yeah.
Instead of say it's storming out or something along those lines, they created a little Nazi child that was in a fucking dumpster making weird Nazi sounds or something, and he stabs a guard, rips out his guts, and implants some sort of device that is later going to get shocked and shut the entire building's auxiliary power down.
He puts it's a little EMP device that looks like one of those like little like you ever go to like an Applebee's or a Fridays or something and you got to put your name on the wait list, and then they hand you a little device that'll start vibrating when your table is ready. Yeah, right. That's exactly what they put in this guy's stomach. So this little Nazi kid stabs him in the stomach, rips out his guts, puts in a little gonna buzz when your table's ready device that's actually an EMP somehow in his stomach. And then he puts the guts back. He was nice enough to put the guts that he ripped out back in.
And then you never see him again.
Yep, the kid just disappears. And then my favorite part about that whole sequence is that they get this guy down into like the medical facility within Death House, and they're sitting there and they're working on him, and they're working on him for quite a while. I'd have to say at least 10 minutes. And what they're working on, I am not entirely sure, because he's got this big gaping wound right here, right in his stomach, right where his belly button is. He's got a wound like this big, all right? And for the entire time he's down there on that operating table, they don't even touch that wound. They go nowhere near it. I think they even make a point to say, don't take his shirt off. It's holding his stomach in or something like that. It's like, wait, what? What? Yeah. I don't know. This movie hurts.
Yeah, it does. Michelle, you just finished your review, so you want to give us a little bit on that?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I touched on a lot of things that you guys had pointed out. Some of the storylines had nothing to do with the movie. So, for example, Tony Todd's opening and ending scenes, reference to this farm. I did not see any reference anywhere else through the movie, and that was after watching it 3 times. So I think there's a lot of scenes that could have been left out and would not have affected the remaining of the movie. Other such things like just like the dialogue, some parts where they were trying to crack jokes, like in the green screen, the doctor mentioning, oh, it's Oscar worthy and stuff like that. The one Terminator quote when
that was awful.
when he's helping her out of the elevator. Yeah, it's just, I tried to be as honest as I could in the review. I didn't want to just give it all this praise because of the names that are in it. It was really hard to pick out a lot of good things, to be honest. As much as I wanted to love this movie, I just couldn't.
You could read, sorry about that, but you could read more on that right now. I was about to paste it in chat, but I accidentally closed out of YouTube altogether. But the review is up on deadentertainment.com. When I get back in the chat room, I'm going to post a link. You can check out what Michelle's thoughts are on it. And I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yep. And I didn't want to step on her toes on the site, so I'm doing my own little review just for my channel. So you can keep an eye on that. I'm hopefully going to have that finished by Friday. I'm trying to edit it and piece it all together with clips of the movies and stuff. It's actually a bit more time-consuming than I thought it was going to be, and it's not going to look the greatest, but my point will get across, trust me. So how about that post-credits scene?
Right, with Shelley. Character named Shelley, played by the one and only Larry Zerner. I watched that scene about 4 times maybe, and I don't understand it.
I do.
I think it might have been a gag for like the production. I don't think it takes place in the movie. Am I correct in thinking that?
What I got from that was in the part where the 3 Satans are in the room. I believe
I
it's
can't
the
even
one
with that
in the
name.
middle.
I am Satan.
I believe it was the one in the middle had his mask taken away.
Okay.
So when the prisoners, well, beforehand, the doctor was, mentioning how he couldn't have his mask. So then when the prisoners break out and Kane goes in the room and they're talking about the mask and he's like, give him his mask back. So the way I saw it is that they threw that gag in at the end with, the Jason mask because it was Kane that said, give him the mask. So I saw it that way because of the whole Jason and Kane and, pulling out the Jason mask at the end. That's what I saw.
I can appreciate that. That little scene to me didn't translate that well. Like, it was a funny little gag because it's like Shelley fucking coming in, realizing he forgot the mask, and he pulls out the Friday 3 mask, which is, a nice little nod to the people that were in the movie. But it didn't, like, what you got from it wasn't put on the screen properly. You know what I mean? It didn't necessarily have that vibe. But, like, it makes perfect sense in that regard.
I think my favorite part about that scene, and by favorite I mean it's so bad, is usually when there's a post-credit scene in a movie, there's a bit of a transition. Maybe, a nice fade in or a fade out, or maybe the credits will just kind of, fade away, and then the post-credit scene is sort of brought forward slowly. Well, this post-credit scene, the credits are rolling and rolling and rolling, and then it just cuts to this post-credit scene. There is no transition.
It walks through the glass door without even sliding it open.
It is so abrupt.
It really is. Like, the music just goes, and then it's a scene.
And it looks like the scene was already like in progress, and they didn't know where to begin the scene on the post-credit scene, so they're just like, all right, just start it anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's like they almost start it mid-sentence.
Really, it does. It definitely has that vibe. Yeah, no, it feels like it was made in Windows Movie Maker. it was that bad. And so real quick, go on.
Was there anything at all that you guys liked at all?
You just stole my thunder. I was gonna go through rapid fire real quick. I wrote in our show notes the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All bad.
Hear real quick, off the top of your head, very specific things. What's the good? What's the bad that you can kind of tolerate? And what's the worst thing from the movie? Start with Matt, because he's very passionate with it.
All bad. There's nothing good about this movie.
One good thing. Good thing. Something. Did you like a piece of lighting? Did you like a particular sound beat in the score? Something had to...
No.
No.
I mean, I thought Sid Haig's character, I thought he played that very well, but I don't know what his character was for. I don't know what he did, what purpose he served. So at the end of the day, yeah, he played a good character. I don't know what his character did. So I don't know if that really counts. So no, there's nothing good about this movie. It's all bad. All of it. And some of the worst about it is the guns. The guns. They use a generic gunshot for every gunshot in the movie. It's ADR'd. They use CGI muzzle flashes. I couldn't believe that shit. And I will be highlighting in my video, there is one particular scene. You ever see like bad 80s movies where, the bad guys or somebody's firing a gun and they're not real guns, obviously. And they're not even like real prop guns that actually fire blanks. They're just fake guns that don't fire anything. And in those movies, the people, they'll be holding the guns and they'll be firing, and they have to simulate their own fucking recoil. Well, there's a great scene where one of the inmates is firing their gun, and he's sitting there and he's jerking the gun off, trying to simulate recoil. I mean, like, how fucking bad can you be that you can't get a couple of proper prop guns so you get a real gunshot, real muzzle flash, and some real, recoil? It's so bad. So goddamn bad. There is nothing redeeming about this movie. It should be placed in level 9 of Death House. That's how bad this movie is.
Michelle?
I just have to stop laughing.
I knew it was starting with him, which get him going. I'm not even going to go to final thoughts with him. I think he wrapped.
Okay. So I have to say it was, the premise of it is good. It was just poorly executed in the writing, in the delivery from the cast. Being a Kane Hodder fan, anything he does unmasked, I'm a fan of. So I liked it because he was in it, which I'm sure sounds like, a fangirl reason. But anyway, I liked it for that. And I actually liked the music. So I don't even know if there's a soundtrack. The tunes at the end were good. In regards to bad, pretty much like what Matt said, anything, the rest of it, the story was hard to follow. Even with the flashbacks, it was still difficult to figure out, are the agents previous criminals who have been reconditioned? They don't know what happened to them, so that's made me think that they were criminals at one time. But just the delivery of the script, the two main characters, definitely not a fan. And not finding out what this farm was also pretty annoying.
And what was the big glaring thing for you that was probably the worst?
That freefall scene, that did it for me.
I think across the board, we probably could agree the ugly in that scene, or in that entire movie, is that freefall scene. I burst out laughing. It's not even the logic in that scene.
It's the
that
music
bothers me. It's the fact that they're like, well, we've got no choice to go any other way, so we may as well go out shooting. Now they're hanging off those cords that transfer the elevator up and down. They're just holding on to them with their hands taped up or wrapped up with very thin white Hanes t-shirt like material. Like they ripped off their sleeve and just wrapped it around their hands twice. Okay, so that's going to obviously protect their hands from being, sawed off
for
now,
3.5 seconds.
Yeah, for 3.5 seconds for a 90-floor free fall. But I'm not talking about logic here. I'm talking about the sheer execution. They decide they're going to drop down and just free fall all the way down to the very bottom level while shooting guns with the unlimited ammo cheat code. Okay, it's first off, they're cheaters to begin with. Second off, they're just free falling all the way down this way. And if that's not bad enough, they put on this most generic cock rock fucking metal song that is the most obnoxious bullshit ever. And that's the soundtrack during this free for all fall shoot sequence. And I just burst out fucking laughing. It was that bad. And
it doesn't end. It just goes. That scene goes to 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, it's really rough. So that's the ugly for me. The bad here for me is the fact that he went for more rather than less. I think an approach to this movie would have been a lot more satisfying if he decided to simplify things a bit. I know that a lot of the things that were put into this movie were a way to throw back to some of his favorite films of all time and this and that. But as if the exposition throughout the entire movie isn't like frustrating enough. You also have scenes that like go from one scene to another, and they continue to convolute the last scene, like, and overcomplicate the entire execution of things. It's unnecessary, in my opinion. It is bad writing and bad filmmaking, to sit there and try to... The best way to put it is, like, he took all of his favorite 80s movies, threw them into a blender, and tried to, like, inject as much of this shit into the cake that he was baking. And it just doesn't work from scene to scene. There are probably a handful of good ideas throughout this movie, and none of them translate well into one another. None of them blend decently. None of them taste good together. It just doesn't work. As far as the good, it's very far and few in between for me. There's just, like, I like some of the special effects, and very few of it's not CGI. There's a particular scene where somebody's face gets ripped off, which I didn't see the first time through, but the second time I was like, oh, that was pretty fucking gnarly. There's these unexplained patients that are basically, they look like a cross between the Lickers from Resident Evil 2 and the skinless people in Hellraiser. So I was like, oh, those are pretty fucking awesome. But again, like the Tony Todd farm scene, nothing is explained. The Tony Todd farm scene was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. He's kidnapping these women in weird cases, and apparently he sells people. So he is a human trafficker of some sort. Couple hints in between make it seem he sells these people to this prison as food for those skinless people, but nothing comes of it. Everything is just all set up and no payoff whatsoever. And the payoff generally is more complication. And even the little acorns of good in this movie end up getting tainted by the very next scene. So that's where I stand with that. Any final thoughts?
Okay, no, hang on. I got shit I gotta say now.
Go for it.
No, I'm not. We're not ending like that. First of all, I know we had kind of discussed this, and we said that we kind of thought that Tony Todd was getting these girls who are 100% complacent for some reason and just do what he says. Okay, to feed those. I think they look more like the creatures from fucking Feast.
Okay, that's fair.
So we thought he was getting these girls to feed those creatures. Well, upon watching that scene again, I don't think that's the case. The one creature grabs a little dead baby creature. You can see it. It's all deformed. And starts eating that. And then the other creature, one of the other creatures, is like hovering over this giant fucking leg. Dude, go back and just watch that scene again. The size of that leg, it's fucking enormous. It has that leg itself had to weigh like 300 pounds, judging by its size. I don't understand. Then we didn't even touch on the 50-second walk down the hallway scene where nothing happens and nobody says anything.
1 minute and 15.
They could have used that time to talk about the farm.
Or
Yes,
anything.
that's brilliant. What about the no recollection of tattoos?
Oh yeah, I sort of get that now. Exactly. They were actually criminals of some sort, and then they've been reconditioned to think that they're agents. So that's why they don't believe.
But you don't get that until you watch it once. Otherwise, it's just like, wow, that was a really weird scene and an excuse to show some tits.
Yeah. At least she did have a nice ass. I can't say she didn't have a nice butt. And we got some nice top-down shots of her butt, and I like that. I wish more movies... That's my favorite thing in the movie. The top-down shot of that chick's ass in the shower. We need more shots like that. I like that. But the other thing I wanted to kind of see if anyone can explain to me. After the facility loses power, and they bring Kane Hodder's character back to his cell, they're taking off those gauntlets around his fucking wrist, which they had said earlier in the movie are like pain hook thingies that I thought like were like permanently attached to him or something. So they're going to take it off, and then all of a sudden, and Kane Hodder's character is like completely out of it. All of a sudden, these CGI hooks come out of these things for no apparent reason and kill 2 guards. Can somebody explain that to me? What did I miss there?
I want to know why they even bothered taking him out of the chair. They should have just left him there.
True.
I don't know. It's everything everything that these characters did in this movie where it was maddening. Like, how did those 3 characters, especially Dee Wallace, climb up to those hanging bodies? How did they get up there?
You know what's messed up about that? Those bodies in certain scenes look like they were about 3 feet off the floor. And then when I saw Dee Wallace fall down from that top view, it seemed like she just fell like maybe inches onto a green screen. It was really.
They don't explain anything.
Maybe we'll get all these answers in part 2.
No, stop it. Stop it. That is not something we want. It's not something anyone wants. This movie's already a blight on mankind.
Yeah.
I just everything in this movie angered me on a personal level, on just a deep personal level. I woke up the next morning after watching it and I was mad at everything. I wanted the world to die just because this movie had been made. That's how bad it is. And there are people saying this is the next cult horror movie, cult classic. No. Bad movies are bad. Awful movies are awful. There's a level I didn't even know existed below awful movies, and this movie falls into it. I would gladly sit through Buzzard Hollow Beef 10 times in a row than have to fucking watch this piece of shit again.
And to jump off of that, this film dethroned my worst film of all time. And it's really weird. It just occurred to me earlier this morning that the film that I deemed worst movie of all time, to me, was House of the Dead. And the one to dethrone it is Death House. Go figure. As far as like final thoughts on my end, it's no director sets out to make a bad movie. They legitimately think that they're doing a good thing by what they're doing. You know, whether it's writing, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's pulling inspiration from some of their favorite filmmakers. But to me, the director Harrison Smith didn't have a person to kind of pull him back from everything and say, hey, look, you're really deep into this and shit is not making sense. Maybe he did, and maybe that's why we have so many unexplained weird exposition and convoluted complication of everything. I don't know. But to me, it feels like they were all yes people down for the greater good of the project. And they didn't necessarily want to challenge him on anything or even point out that it wasn't very good. Maybe they were all blinded by it. I'm trying to rationalize this, and the other big thing for me is trying to understand what people are seeing in it. I've watched it twice. I don't get it, and I wish I did. I wish I was able to shut off my many, I want to say 30 some odd years of 30 years of horror fandom and see what other horror fans are seeing in it. But to me, I can't. There's just nothing about it. And to me, for my final quote, I have a small modified quote that I want to recite, and it's to the director, Mr. Smith. What you've just released is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever watched, and no point in your rambling incoherentness of a film or even close to anything that could be considered a rational narrative. Everyone on this podcast is no dumber for having watched it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And the souls who have watched this movie. Harrison Smith, you should not be directing any movies. You should not be writing movies. Now, that is not going to stop you from continuing this. So what I suggest doing is getting a wrangler for yourself for when you make a movie. And by wrangler, I mean someone who is going to come up and slap you. Just backhand or open fist slap you whenever you think you have a good idea, because that's not a good idea. Example, in Death House, toward the end of the movie, these gaseous electric apparition tentacles just, materialize out of nowhere. We don't have any type of backstory on what they are, where they come from, why they're there, what they do. And if they try to towel whip Kane Hodder, and it doesn't work, and then they towel whip two other guys, and they just die in the most pathetic fashion I've ever seen. And that's it. We have no information on what these electric gas tentacle things were. So that's an idea where you probably had, and your wrangler could have came up and smacked you and said, no. No. Bad. Bad, Harrison Smith. Bad. But you didn't have a wrangler. So we got an entire movie filled with your shit. And your shit's not good, man. It's not good.
Michelle?
So, all that aside, I do want to say that when it comes to the crew, and including Harrison on their social media, they have been very interactive with fans, with other people. I've had positive interactions with, I don't know who runs their Facebook or Instagram, but sadly, I think he did get over his head with this. There was just too many people. I think if he would have scaled it back, had, maybe just a handful at the most, and focus more on a script that made sense, I think it would have been better. Sadly, I have very high expectations, and it didn't live up to mine, so very disappointing. I was really looking forward to this being a good movie.
Yeah, I will jump onto that really quick and say that every interaction that I've had with the director and anybody that ran the Death House social media has been nothing short but kind and welcoming and open to, and no complaints there. So it feels a little wrong to be a little too harsh on it, but I watched this movie twice and just not seeing it, man. Just not seeing it. So you do you, and good luck.
They had to be nice. They knew they made the worst movie ever. They had no choice to be nice. You don't want to make the worst movie ever and then be assholes to the people who are trying to support it. Anyway.
I hear you.
Anyway, done talking about this shit. I still have to finish editing my review, so I gotta listen to myself talk more about this shit. Alright? Done. I'm done with it. This movie has ruined enough of my life. And it has. It really has. I feel like my life is going downhill ever since watching this film. So
tune in for a better episode next week.
Yeah, maybe I'll get my life back on track then. I feel like I need to go do heroin or something. I don't know.
Alright, so I'll be introducing my next new host, Michelle Chaotic, next week when Matt overdoses.
You're gonna see me on the next podcast. I'm gonna be sitting here, be scratching myself like fucking Tyrone from Chappelle's Show. But so we're gonna go ahead and cut more geek news this week. Again, I promise we'll get back into it. on our next episode. You know, we just had a lot to talk about with this movie. It's amazing how much you can talk about a bad movie. Or the worst movie.
Man, it surprised me. We've been talking about this thing since we watched it, and I guess the film did that. You know, it brought us together to really pick this thing apart, and oh man, not a lot of meat in the bone.
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of people were talking when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, you know. So
That is true. Definitely true.
Yeah, so if you want to call that a good thing, sure. It got people talking. Oh, yeah, it did. At what cost, though? But thank you guys for hanging out and listening to us. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. Appreciate it. You are always welcome to join us. We always like it when we have another person to bounce off topics and conversations and ideas.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun with you guys.
So remember, guys, check out the website deadentertainment.com. You can actually read Michelle's review for this movie that is up. So go check that out. You don't want to miss that. If you didn't get enough of this movie, go read that. There's also some other good stuff up on the site right now. I'm currently not working on anything. I'm trying to think what I want to do for my next article. When I think of something, I'll let you guys know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dead End Site. You can also follow myself at Bates_MotelMT. You could follow Mungus on Twitter as well, at Ray Mungus. And you could also follow Michelle as well. That is at Chaotic Notes 1. That's chaotic spelled Kaotic. You could also like us on Facebook, facebook.com/deadentertainment. And yeah, one last thing before we end. Next Friday, which is Black Friday, not this Friday, next Friday, are we a go for the live commentary?
Well, I am working 4 a.m. that morning, and I'm scheduled for a very long shift, but fuck it, I'm doing it. I'm calling out the very next day. So, yeah, I got beer ready, and I'm ready to go. We're going to have wonderful feelings.
Wonderful. Yeah, all right, so after watching Death House, we need wonderful feelings in our life, and I can think of no better movie to get said wonderful feelings than American Hippie in Israel. So I urge everybody to join us next Friday. I'm going to guarantee you guys do not have this movie. You may not be able to find it. So here's the deal on that. If you want to watch this movie with us, there's 2 ways to do that. This movie, I do believe, in its entirety, is on YouTube. And if you want to watch exactly what we are watching, get in contact with me, and I will give you details on how to watch the movie live with us. That's all I can say about that, but so you have 2 ways you can enjoy this movie with us, and you will enjoy it. You know what? I understand American Hippie in Israel more than I understood Death House.
And that's a bold statement. That's a very bold statement, and I have to agree 100%.
See, we're going from an awful movie that's just straight up awful to an awful movie that's fucking batshit insane and entertaining at the same time. There is quite a difference between a bad movie that's fun to watch and a bad movie that makes you want to just dunk your head in the toilet. So
Yes.
yeah, so I don't know who's going to be joining us for that next week. Hopefully, we'll have 1 or 2 other people because I want people to watch this. This is a good one. I'm so excited.
Cough.
What's that?
I said cough, Michelle, cough.
Yeah.
I
Well,
will tune in.
oh yeah.
You're no fun.
Well, I think is Jess going to join us?
She was tentative, and I think John is feeling a lot better now that he had some dental work done. So he is no longer a big bundle of pain. Actually, it's his birthday today, so I know he's not listening right now. But I just wanted to shout out him, John Nattel, for a very happy birthday to him.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Hopefully a painless one too, because that man's been in agony for the last couple weeks.
If you can get me the link, then I will watch it and join with you guys.
Sweet, we got you.
Yeah, trust me, you guys don't want to miss this movie, American Hippie in Israel. It was a lost movie for many, many years. I definitely understand why it was lost, but that does not change the fact that this movie is so much fun. And
fortunately, somebody found it, so you better be there next week to witness this thing, because it is amazing. You will leave speechless, and Amazon links will be handed out after the fact, because you're going to want to own this.
Yes, definitely, without a doubt. So thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Next week episode is the day before Thanksgiving. As of right now, we are planning an episode. I'm thinking maybe a shorter episode, because I know I'm going to have a lot of shit going on. I'm having a ton of people at my house for Thanksgiving, so I got a lot of shit I got to prep. But as of right now, we are planning to do an episode next week. Again, I think it might be a shorter episode since we're doing the live commentary on Friday, so keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
So, maybe even just like a freestyle stream of some sort. So,
Cool.
So something short and simple, but not too short.
Look at Bates hinting at me. He's like, like 3-4 news pieces. You don't have to make it a 3-hour episode, right?
I'm just trying to, because again, we're all gonna be busy, so.
Yeah, I have to get up in the morning for the next day for work, so yeah. Very. All right, so next week Wednesday we'll have let's do an interactive episode. Just hang out. We'll do one of those and then kick off the commentary next Friday.
All right, that sounds good for me. All right, so next Wednesday night, we probably won't do much horror news or geek news. Even though I just said a few minutes ago we'll get back into the geek news in the next episode, I just lied. You see, anybody can lie. It's easy. Like Dan Aykroyd, he lies every time.
We're connected to the horror genre. They're all liars, so are we.
Just kind of a laid back. We'll bullshit about whatever. Maybe
They get it.
Yeah. All right.
Let's land this plane, damn it.
Yeah, you know me. All right, guys. So we will see you next week. Thank you, and remember.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.